Hello, everyone, and welcome to this subsection of the talk with tribute to the Whittaker era. In today's episode, we'll be celebrating the one and only Sacha Dhawan, alongside talking about uh, zines and all the above. And I'm here with Kat. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Katherine. I am generally most known for being the most massive fan of Dewan Master the entire year, and
Understatement of the century,
basing
right there.
basing my life around activities generally to do with that.
Talking of that, let's cover the scenes first. So, for anyone who doesn't know what a scene is, how do you kind of introduce the concept to people?
So a zine is, or the zines that I'm working on right now are fan curated, fan created, anthology style books in essence.
Mm,
So they're self-published books, but just a little bit more homemade. Um, so you've got sort of anthologies and stuff like that. Not very much different. It's just got a bit more of a an artistic feel to it. So you can get fandom zines, you can get non-fandom zines, but I mostly stick to the fandom side of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what scenes have you worked on so far? You did a master one, didn't you?
I did, yes. So far, I've contributed to one that was called Gender Who. It was all about gender in Doctor Who. That's what I started with. And I was inspired by sort of doing that one. So I made my first one, which was called Hope Zine, which was so authors wrote stories over lockdown on the theme of hope and sort of donated to the frontline healthcare workers after that. The next one that is quite a lot bigger was around the universe's worst planet in 77 years.
Yeah.
So cataloguing the massive 77 years on Earth during Survival Part 2, historians of a decade. And the one I'm currently working on with a team of people is called The History Between Us, which is so the basic concept is the TARDIS has got so fed up of the Doctor and the Masters bickering across time and space. She just says, right, go on. I'm sitting you down, I'm booking you a couples counselling session. We're going to sort your problems out. And the structure of the zine sort of follows this sort of duration of the appointment. And they're sort of asked about their lives and how did they meet, and when was the time they hated each other or loved each other. And across all the doctors, you've got one story per doctor. A few interesting pairings along the way
That genuinely sounds amazing. I can't wait. I can't wait to read that. That's gonna be great. I mean, and so much to cover. They have
there.
they have a tricky relationship, but I suppose it works in the end. They always end up fighting each other, and yeah. So talking of the Master, of course, the Master you're probably most kind of known for is Sash Dhawan. You know, your love for Sash Dhawan and his portrayal of the role. What kind of draws you to that incarnation of the character?
Oh,
Quite a big question, I
lots,
know.
lots. Um, so I've always been into Doctor Who, um, so forever. But the first series where I was like, oh my God, no, I'm into Doctor Who in that way was probably series 9, series 10.
Mm.
And I latched onto Missy's arc, and just went a bit crazy about Michelle Gomez and everything with me.
Understandable. Really understandable there.
Understandable. So that was kind of the setup for, me getting really into Missy, really loving series 10. And after World Enough in Time, the Doctor falls and she died. Um
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, that's it, right. I'm still gonna keep liking her,
Oh,
obviously, because I
yeah.
can't tone it down, but she's never gonna appear again. And then she did. So it like you know, it's just something about the you can see so many layers in his
Oh,
performance.
yeah.
The man's a genius. Sash Dhawan is the most talented act I've ever seen, ever.
And that's something I can agree with. I mean, he's he's got this presence on screen, unlike any other I think I've seen. I mean, as the well, I mean, I love the Master as a character. And the one brought something new to the role that I really liked. I think a lot of people try to understate his kind of influence on the role, his kind of his performance. You know, saying he's a BTEC sim and all that, which I I really disagree with completely. And yeah, I think there's something so magical about his performance and how he can go from he's captured the Master completely, in my opinion. Like especially in Power. Power is probably my favorite performance. How he can just go from like silence to like rage to like there's a tragedy behind his eyes and every scene really where it needs to be there. I think one of my favorite scenes of his was when apart from the Rasputin dance was when he was changing back.
Yeah.
That was such a powerful scene. Uh, and his performance really just sold it. I'm really glad we got more than one. What's your favorite episode with him in?
Gosh, that's a complicated question. In terms of enjoyment, um, I'm gonna have to split this up into segments.
By
So
all means, the stage is all yours.
his his most, I don't know, one of his most powerful performances is The Timeless Child.
Hmm.
And not even talking about the plot or anything that happens. He just gives such a multi-layered performance in that story. I mean, I enjoy Spyfall Plot 1. I enjoy Spyfall Plot 2. I do have to switch it off at one point and switch it back on again, but I
Hmm.
enjoy it as an episode.
Yeah.
But The Timeless Children is just his showcase, and that's where he I think that's where he won a lot of people over.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and in Power of the Doctor, it's something I've said before. It's a shame, really, not to me personally, but it's a shame that it's so much of his episodes. His it's his 90 minutes essentially because you get Jodie and
Mm.
Jodie literally disappears into the background. Um, that's a separate issue, but he gets his own show, right? And he does that in The Time of Children, and there's just so quintessentially master there. I think they got
Oh yeah.
something between Spyfall and Time of Children that made him just that bit more master.
Yeah, and I'm so glad we got him in the show after Spiteful as well, because of course speculation went around. Oh, that's just his one appearance. When it was obvious that it wasn't because he was wearing his costume in the hologram scene. You know, there's like, why would you bring out a original costume just for the like? You wouldn't do that. But there was definitely something about his performance in Timeless Children that just it is insane. It's brilliant. I mean, I've really enjoyed the Timeless Children plot wise as well. I think I think it's a really good story, and I think the how it explores the Master and his complex dynamic with the Doctor is yeah, it's brilliantly done. What do you think about people saying that the Timeless Child should have been the Master? Because that's something that a lot of people critique and bring up that that's what should have happened. I don't really agree.
No, I don't agree at all. I think people saying that kind of they want a completely different story to what was the point of the Timeless Child twist is to do a lot of things, but mostly the fact that it is the Doctor
Mm,
puts the Master in such an interesting position because if it was the Master, it would just be another you'd have a replica origin story to like Sin Master and
yeah,
the 10th Doctor trying to heal him and get get his own back for the Time Lord sins of the past, and
and I think
it would be a like cookie cutter vengeance story
mm,
because
yeah, I get what you're saying. I think uh, the thing with the Doctor and the Master's origin stories is that while the Doctor has had origin stories, they've mainly been detailed in books. It's never been shown on screen. I mean, the thing with the Master is that his origins have been explored in audio and TV.
mm,
Master and of course, Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords, and Utopia. So it's it and End of Time. So I think there would have been something. I don't think it would have worked as well if the Timeless Child was the master. And
There's also that, yeah, sorry. There's also the element of, like the master his has been taught all his life that he
mm,
is in some way special because of his place in the universe.
yeah,
It's something he takes with him and he's been brought up with. And it would just the master's thing is that he is better than the doctor's humans, he's better than the doctor's pets, people they are around. And
mm,
doing so, making him the Timeless Child would just confirm that.
yeah.
It doesn't
I
flip
think
the Doctor and Master's relationship on its head because
exactly.
it changes nothing for the Doctor, but in this way around, it changes everything for the Master, fundamentally who
Oh
he
yeah.
is without making him the Timeless Child.
I think the only interesting thing about him being a Timeless Child is that sense of confirmation. I think that would have been I think that would have been slightly interesting in that like he would have I mean he just would have boasted it about and it wouldn't have changed much, but like maybe maybe just like he is the way that he is because he doesn't truly deep down believe that he is that important. So he has to do what he does to back that up to him. So maybe the confirmation would actually I feel like it'd either damage him more or heal him a bit. Either one, it wouldn't be as interesting as the Doctor being the Timeless Child. So I'm glad they went with that. Um, talking a bit more about the Timeless Child actually, because obviously it's an episode that did garner controversy that I don't really like covering with the series because it's a positive series, and I really like the Timeless Children. Really, I think it got way too much flack for what it was. And yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. But what do you think about the chosen one debate about the Doctor and the timeless child making the Doctor that sort of chosen one that people criticize the episode for? I don't agree with it personally, but what are your thoughts on that?
Of quite a few. So I kind of fall on both sides of the debate, really,
Mm,
because my personal favorite origin story for the Doctor is born into sort of wealth with a
mm,
silver spoon in their mouth, and they choose to abandon the wealth and privilege of the sort of youth and their
yeah,
childhood to save the universe and help people, help normal people, and
yeah,
that for me is just the best origin story they can have. So in terms of me, in terms of that side of timeless children, I do slightly agree with the criticisms that
mm,
it does that to the Doctor's origin story because it implies predestination. So
yeah,
I was thinking about this the other day, and the tenth Doctor says a line to the Master in the end of time. I wonder what I'd be without you. And the answer is, well, exactly the same actually,
mm,
because we've been shown, Ruth Doctor isn't exactly the same, but she's got a TARDIS, she's got companions, she is the Doctor, she calls herself the Doctor, and it implies a predetermination that I don't like, which robs that kind of origin story I talked
mm,
about earlier of some of its agency. But on the other hand, you've got the person who believes most in the chosen one sort of side of trans children is the master.
mm.
And it isn't the being this sort of genetically special quotations
Tell
sort of
you what,
being.
I think you saying
Yeah.
all that has kind of given me a thought in that the Doctor when they weren't around the Master, was of course they went by the Doctor Day TARDIS, but that was like way later on in their life as a fugitive. Maybe the Doctor wasn't necessarily free. The Doctor wasn't really a rebel or anything. They were working for this company, this corrupt organization that took advantage of them throughout their lives. Maybe the Doctor with the Master is more free. They were more inspired to steal a TARDIS and run away. Of course, they actually did do that as fugitive, but that was after probably hundreds upon hundreds of years under a decadent and corrupt organization. Maybe, and when the Doctor was born into a rich family again, that's kind of what I like about the Timeless Children as well is that origin story there doesn't necessarily contradict or remove that origin story there, in my view. They both kind of coexist because, of course, it was rewritten at the end of the Timeless Children. Um, and I think the Doctor and the Master, I think the Master definitely influenced the Doctor a lot to run away earlier, steal a TARDIS, and be a rebel. And their friendship probably was the push towards that, towards who the Doctor
Yeah.
is, especially with what happened in Master. I think that was a pivotal moment. So I think, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I also think that it kind of with a lot of like explaining, it kind of proves how the Master is how important he is in the Doctor's life. But yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that idea. I like that.
hmm. Another controversial question. Sorry, I'm asking you quite a bit about controversy, but this one is one we discussed a while back, and I've completely changed my mind now. Is the placement of the one? Because I know you have a lot of thoughts on that, and I have a lot of thoughts on it as well. About whether he's after or before Missy. Now, I originally, when I watched it, I was all for him being before Missy. Now I'm more leaning towards him being after Missy. I completely,
Very nice.
especially with everything that's happened in the comics and all that, and it just, I understand why people place him before Missy, but I'm personally leaning more after. Well, I know
Mm.
you're more after as well. What are your thoughts on all that?
Too many to say all of them out, but no, yeah, there's many points to the Dual Master being after, mostly that it does create such a impactful emotional journey. And I mean, people say, would it just make sense for this, completion of the Master's life to die as Missy? It's never made sense for the Master's life to be completed in death. Um, and then you've got the option of Missy going into the vault, knowing this sort of knowledge of the times children. And I think that takes away actually some of Missy's motivations in season 10, series
Mm,
10. Because I'm not even going to explain the other side of the debate why it's better for Dual Master to be after, but on Missy's side, you're actively removing some of what makes the Vault Arc so beautiful because it's
mm,
Missy's surrender to, be
yeah,
subjected to this by the Doctor so she can be his equal and opposite. And the foreknowledge that she could never, that they are this and she could never accept it would take away the tragedy of the Vault Arc because it's just her subjugating herself. And I think
yeah,
Missy as a character doesn't deserve that.
yeah. I perfectly see your point there. I think I think that was I think it was after the podcast we did with Jack. That really kind of made me think. I've been thinking about this all wrong. Because I re-listened to the podcast again and I realized I'm not actually making good points to Missy being before the one. No, the one being before Missy. Uh, so yeah, I think he definitely comes after Missy. But moving on to the Whittaker era as a whole, really. Um, what did you like about Whittaker era and really what was your favorite episode from that free series from?
So I had a rough introduction, quite a rough introduction to 13, in that I watched series 11 after my favorite series ever, series 10 had just.
Mm,
So after after your Doctor leaves, there's always going to be a crash,
yeah.
whatever would have been aired. And so I think it would have to be series 12, because I fell out of love with it a little bit, the current show at the time with series 11, it
Yeah.
coming back to stuff I really love because I love arcs in Doctor Who, and I think Doctor Who is custom built for arcs.
Mm.
And Whittaker era Doctor Who is just arcs, arcs, arcs. After you get past series 11, it's arcs all the time. And I mean, obviously, my favorite episode is any with the Master in.
Oh yeah, of course. Excluding those though.
But having maybe one that isn't possibly, and this is common choice, but for the Diodati because you have the prelude to this, the finishing episodes of the series. You have
Yeah.
13th moment when it's like, this is not about team structure. And I really, really wanted the antagonism. I loved it. I loved it. And Ashad adds to that episode so much.
Oh,
That,
definitely.
I like slit my children's throats, whatever. It's like, yeah.
Uh, so I think Ashad is such a powerful presence in the show. I'm glad they brought him back for power. Do slightly wish he did a bit more saying that, but he did get some amazing moments that I really enjoyed in that episode. I mean, um, I think his standoff against Kate for one is just iconic. I mean, he's great in that episode. I'm glad they brought him back. I hope I hope there's more to do with him in future. Because I don't want him to be overused. That's my main worry is that if they do bring him back, he'll be back every week. But I feel like in the occasional Cyberman episode or Big Finish episode story, it'd be great to see Ashad. It'd be brilliant. Yeah, and Haunting of Villa Diodati is such a great choice. I mean, the moment Ashad appears is just spine-chilling. It's great. I think that was Series 12 was amazing. Uh, and it really the surprises in that season, every single one of them caught me off guard. Every single one, especially Gallifrey being destroyed. That was
Yeah.
what are your kind of thoughts on that? I know I'm kind of asking for your thoughts on everything, but like what are your thoughts on Gallifrey being destroyed? Because that's another controversial
I love
topic.
it.
Mm,
I love it. I think it was RTD. I think RTD made a point of saying you have to mute Gallifrey if you're gonna have a fresh. And you can do a lot with, time or bureaucracy, as they do in Big Finish quite a lot. They
yeah,
revisit Gallifrey. But if you do it to death, it becomes very procedural and dry. And if you try to move it away from that, it becomes like you've suddenly got this cast of renegades and everyone's a renegade. It's like you're stuck in a bit with Gallifrey because you can either do dusty politicians or runaway Time Lords.
mm,
Um, and there's a lot to be explored in the past of Gallifrey,
yeah,
Academy, Doctor and Master.
the
That's
Decker and all that. Yeah,
so, yeah, yeah.
I think
I love it.
I really like the Gallifrey audio series. I think that does it really well. It's definitely a very focused series, and it really is brilliant. I do quite like Gallifrey in the TV show, but it depends on how you use it, as you said, and I think if it's quite just obviously Gallifrey is very embedded into the show, but I do love how Rusty Davis did it in the End of Time. Gallifrey is posed as this threat. I love it when Gallifrey, as a concept, or the Time Lords are antagonistic. And like Rassilon appearing and like he just undoes the Master's plan just like that. But I also like the Deadly Assassin. I don't mind Hellbent now. I used to not like Hellbent, but I really like it now actually, because the Doctor is the antagonist of that story. I think that was the thing with Hellbent is that even in that story, Gallifrey isn't the focus. So I think
Mm.
I'm quite I don't mind that they destroyed it. Honestly, I don't mind. I do wish there was a bit more done with it before it was destroyed, but at the same time, I'm not broken up about it. It's not. It was a big shock, and it really made for a great setting at the end of in the Timeless Children, Gallifrey in complete ruins. Um, and yeah, the past is definitely something well explored. I mean, but yeah, what are your overall thoughts on how Whittaker's era ended?
Um, I think if I'd been a fan of different things, I would have been disappointed. Um, since I'm a fan of Master, I was, thrilled to bits.
Hmm.
Um, Power of the Doctor is a good episode. is a good episode, but for a start, it doesn't feel like Jodie's episode. It feels like Sasha's.
Mm.
His emotional, his acting showreel, as it were. It's just wow, everything all at once. I mean, I'm not too much of a fan of Yaz, but even I was kind of a bit, there's been this theme of, Yaz resisting and trying to get closer to the Doctor, and I know they have that moment in Legend of the Sea Devils where they
Yeah,
come to the conclusion that they can't get close. But I would have liked to have seen Yaz becoming independent in a more, in a
yeah,
less sort of, oh, well, you're dying, I have to leave now kind of way. I think Yaz deserves the agency a bit more, not just being let go.
I get that.
And
Yeah.
yeah, the regeneration, I mean, I'm a huge fan of horrible, painful regenerations. It's very in character. So
I
I was
guess
just
you
like,
really
oh,
like the end of time, man.
yeah.
God, Tennant
I'm just like,
he was
she's
put
not
through a lot.
suffering enough. Yeah, she's not suffering enough. She's too happy. Stop it.
I think that's
Um,
really fitting for her era though, at the end,
it is
for
at
her
the
to
end.
be happy. I think if anyone deserved a happy ending, it was, well, 12 deserved a happy ending, but he
Uh,
didn't really get a happy ending in the end, did he? And I mean, yeah, but if anyone deserved a happy ending, it was fine. I'm glad they gave her one. And the regeneration scene in itself is one of my favorites. It's up there. I think nothing can really beat the Ninth Doctor and the Third Doctor for me, but 13's up there. And 11. Yeah. What's your favorite regeneration scene? There's a question.
oh, oh, I hadn't even thought about it. That's a question.
Yeah, here you were expecting me only be asked about the one and 13, but gotta throw in surprise questions.
Sevens, because it's so bloody weird. I love it. I watched it the other day and I was like, yeah, no,
Oh
this
wait,
is the sort of body horror I
I
want.
thought you meant sixes. Sorry, I thought you meant 6 to 7, and that's why I had such a strong reaction. No, I thought you meant the wig. I was like,
I love the
oh,
wig as well. I love it
oh,
'cause
that's
she's
that's definitely
like,
my favorite. That is up there. Uh,
oh,
it's peak fiction, really. I mean, they fit the
yeah,
wigs so
yeah.
perfectly, and the effects. It's just wonderful. Like, yeah, I have to agree with that. Actually, I do love the body horror, and I love how,
Mm.
I mean, you just said painful deaths, painful regenerations. I mean, Seven got put through so much, and to be honest, after his era, he kind of deserved it. He deserved that in the end, especially after what he put Ace and everyone through.
Yeah,
For him
it's
to
deserved.
for him to be like this massive like game player and manipulator, to walk out of his TARDIS without checking the scanner once and be shot, and to then proceed to be put on surgery, to then die in surgery. Yeah, it's probably the most.
Mm.
I could make an argument for it to be one of the most painful out of the lot. Him and probably Tem, although
It's
the anesthetic
chilling.
probably helped. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's probably up there. It's probably my favorite's probably the Ninth Doctor, just because
Mm.
the dialogue and how he helps Rose, and I like the Third Doctor's because it's so tragic.
I
You,
know.
the Third Doctor's is probably the one I see as the most tragic. I mean, the 10th Doctor growing up, that was the most tragic to me because it was. Yeah, I was not really old enough to remember nines, but 10 was the first one that I kind of remember. But yeah, I really enjoy 13th Regeneration. What do you think? Actually, I won't ask that question because I tend to keep it not about the future, but more for 13th Doctor. I was going to ask about the 13 changing into 14 and what you think about
Mm.
14 in the future, but I will refrain from asking that question because this is all about 13.
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned Yaz earlier. What were your thoughts on the companions throughout the 13th Doctor era?
Um, they're okay. I think I have quite a controversial opinion in that I just think they're all right, innit?
Yeah,
Um,
fair. That's
I
completely fair.
mean, watching sitting down and watching it with parents, they'll go, "Ah, Graham, I love him." And I
I
do
mean,
love
who
Graham.
doesn't love Graham?
Who doesn't love Graham? I love Graham. Um, I I love how they just went for, yeah, let's just cast a sort of older male comedian. Sure, whatever. I like both of them.
Mm,
Yaz, I think I'm growing to like her a lot more as the series gets more and more in the past.
I can understand that. Yeah.
I wasn't really swayed either way. She was okay.
Mm.
Um,
I mean,
I didn't like her being a police officer particularly.
yeah, that's
I
fair.
didn't think that was a really fitting job for a companion. I
Mm.
know the companion's supposed to be just a normal person, but it
I mean,
it didn't bring anything.
that is one aspect that I really liked, that they were all just normal people. They were all just,
Mm,
I mean, that can be said for pretty much every companion, but they were just all enjoying the adventure and just perfectly kind of fit the vibe the era was going for, especially in Series 11, I find. I think
mm,
Series 11 and 13 are probably the most companion focused. Series 12 is definitely more Doctor focused. That is
yeah.
definitely I could tell that kind of, I think most people could tell that like the companions arcs all kind of, they were there. It was just the Doctor was the key focus, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. I do enjoy Series 12. But then I think Can You Hear Me had a fantastic arc for Yaz. I find it's that whole mental health aspect of her character was really well developed, and I really enjoyed it. Another thing I want to ask you about is Comic Con and meeting Sash Dhawan, because that because I've seen you after you met Sash Dhawan, and what's it like meeting him? Because I met him as well. I've got my
Mm,
photo here of me and Dhawan.
mm.
So there it is. What was it like meeting him for the first time and then every time after?
Well, the first time I ever met him was in November of 2021. It was just when stuff was starting to come back after COVID. And so he hadn't been to any cons since being a
Mm.
master. And it was his first one. And it was, uh, if you think I was insane at the one that's just been, uh-uh. Um, I, I had, I went with my sort of Twitter mate and I went to get a photo with him first, and I did it. Couldn't say a word, completely tongue-tied. Just nothing was coming out, and I cried afterwards, very hard,
Mm.
because I thought I just fucked up, my chance
Yeah.
to meet Sasha Wang. So I was just like, I didn't say anything, I didn't do anything. But then, I went to the autograph table and what I did then was to give him like I collected messages from people who couldn't be there and I gave them to him as letters and stuff
Oh,
and gave him
that's wonderful. That's amazing.
him he
Mm.
really, really loved it because he made a tweet about a week later and he was like took a picture of all the letters I had like brought and been like, thank you so much.
Wow, that is genuinely so
Yeah,
lovely. That
he's
is amazing.
he's so sweet. And then the second time was last year in September, and he and Jodie went to Collectomania. That was a very special one because obviously me and my friend Nat, we had a photo taken as a hug sandwich. So Jodie was there, Nat was here, I was there, and Sash was there. So we were getting like sandwich. And it's yeah, you can see my face in the photo, and it just tells you all you need to know. um, and that was the one the zine he Sasha didn't say he was coming until a week before,
Mm.
and the turnaround time on getting a zine in a very quick amount of time is a week.
Yeah.
So the zine was basically ready at that point, but I had this sort of 7 days from hell in which I had to print out first edition copies to get to give to him. And
Yeah.
Zach, who's on Twitter, and Nat went up to him and spoke to him.
Yeah.
Um, totally a blur. Next day, I'm gone. But Nat goes back, goes to his table. They're just getting an autograph for their mate at this point.
Yeah.
And they go away again, and the security guards follow them across the hall, and they're just like, sorry, Sasha wants to speak to you again. Can you come back to the table? Like this, like it's like reader insert fan fiction moment. This is like Sasha wants to see you personally. It's like, and they're freaking out. They're calling me like, what's going on? Get back in line. And he records the sweetest video ever.
Mm.
like basically thanking us for what we've done, and he'd read it that night. So quite
That's
weird,
insane.
quite a
That's
weird
that's
feeling.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then so the high from that didn't end for a while. And then this time was the calmest I've ever been, really, which is saying something. Uh, I went and I this time I got to give him someone's wedding photos because
Ah.
no, I got a new friend called Star, and
Hmm.
she got married in sort of 13 cosplay, and her husband got married in Master cosplay. So I got their wedding photos and gave them to Sasha. He was like,
That
"Let
is
me down."
amazing. That is genuinely
Yeah.
amazing on all stories. That is wow. I mean, you mentioned you also met Jodie. I mean, I also met Jodie, and I got a photo of her and an autograph from them. She is the most energetic person I think I've ever met in my life. It was my
Uh-huh.
first photo I take, like it was my first photo shoot I'd taken with anyone before, and I
Mm.
was thinking in like the queue, like, oh, what do I do? What pose do I do? And then I go over, and then she goes, "Hello," and then puts her arm around me, and I like, what am I? And then like I accidentally, because I tried to smile at that point, I bit my lip while the photo was taken. And so like the photo is kind of like just got like this half smile, like this most shocked expression you will ever see like someone go through. And I love it
Mm.
because it's like so chaotic. But yeah, what was it like meeting Jodie for you?
Um, for Jodie, it was a bit different because I mean, I had the joint photo,
Mm,
and like I'm a massive fan of the Master of Dual Master. They're a massive fans of Exclusively 13. So I felt like I was going to see Jodie, but like I wasn't gonna add anything, or but like she's very, very, very nice.
yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, you look beautiful," and I was like, "Ah." But yeah, like so, meeting Sasha was like the one that got me the most excited.
Yeah,
Um, but
understandable.
but yeah, being in the queue with really really massive 13 stands was very exciting.
Oh, yeah, they're all
It
lovely
just like
people.
absorbed. Yes, the energy just absorbs into you, and it's great. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, one question I want to ask you because we did discuss it for a bit at Comic-Con, but and the BFI. What stories do you really want for like the one in future, for like Big Finish and so forth, or if he comes back to the show on TV, because that'd be brilliant. I'd love a Master Incarnation to carry on straight onto another era, like Ainley. I know Sim came back for Capaldi for an episode, but like I'd like for the one to stay the mainline master for a bit, the master in the series for a bit. Would you like that? And what stories do you think could be told? And what stories do you want to be told? Sorry, a lot of questions there.
I'd very much like that. I want him to be the Anthony Ainley of New Who, which is a sentiment shared by a lot of people. I think it's going to be a long while till we see him in the main show again, and that might not be with Shooty.
Mm,
Loath to say it, I really do want to see him with Shooty, but
yeah,
he might be in a spin-off. I don't know, but I was thinking all things Big Finish the other day, and when he gets in to record his box sets, I think they're going to try and do like an origin story for him. And,
yeah.
I'd love to see like an origin story, but my sort of origin story, Jenna Coleman, the Master Clara Adventures. But this makes sense because, Clara has to go back to Gallifrey to die,
Mm-hmm.
the only place she can die. She comes back, adopts the Master as her companion. What reason does he have to go to Gallifrey? Oh yeah, because he's accompanying Clara, because she has to
That's
die in Trap Street.
that's a lot. That is a lot. That
Uh,
is I
just
could see that
the
happening.
just the energy of Jenna and Sasha in the room, because
Mm,
their characters are so like woo, they work
yeah,
perfectly.
I could
But
see that.
also I'd love because each Big Finish Master set has a different spin on it, a different angle. So War
Yeah.
Master is the sort of not more serious, but it's weightier drama than Missy, who has sort of her own kind of pantomime villain type thing going on.
Mm.
And I think with Sasha's, they need to go more towards the tone of War Master to keep it,
Yeah. Yeah, I
grounded
can
enough.
see that.
And I'd love in the future for him to be in a story with Jeffrey Beavers, and I think I'd
It would
think
be
about it again.
amazing. That'd be an
It would
amazing
be
combination.
such. I would feel privileged to listen to it because you've got two masters with completely opposing
Mm.
views on life, motivations, one to live, one to, maybe
Yeah.
die, knowing the truth and not knowing the truth. And there could be a choice about how much do you say, what do you do?
Mm.
Um,
What
yeah.
what point in Beaver's life would you put it? Because would it be post-master or pre-master or like was it post during kind of the Ravenous sort of time or the Fourth Doctor's time? Like what Beavers are we talking here? Because dear God, the Master's timeline is just wonderful, complex, just brilliant, but a contradictory nightmare, and I love it. But what point in Beavers, like what Beavers?
This is an extremely nerdy question, but I,
Oh,
I
it
love it.
really is.
It's like Beavers 1, 2, or 3, and I'm like, oh, no. It's like a wine tasting. I like
Yeah,
him seasoned when he's, ravenous incarnation.
mm,
When he's got, I think I'm not sure if that's the one that's in Masterful, but it seems like it.
yeah,
I don't know if they confirmed it, but like getting that, he has lived through that amount of life,
yeah. I
and he's
think
he really is at the end.
definitely that Master post Master, because of course at that point, both of like if the one was to meet him at that point, like they'd both been through such like big revelations, and
But
they'd
he
both
wouldn't
be come to
know.
terms with it. Of course not, but which is a
Mm.
shame. But maybe like I don't know, maybe there would be like some work around there, maybe, but it would kind of ruin Master, so maybe not. Maybe I don't know, but it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see those two masters together. I mean, what master incarnation do you think he'd share the most with? Because you said that him and Beavers would be very contradictory on their kind of stance on life. What master do you think he would get along the most with?
Probably, Missy, because
Mm,
of what they both know, what realizations they both come to, how close they are together.
yeah,
Um, and you know, they don't have the same personality at all,
mm,
but they have that. I feel like the one master has that understanding from when he was Missy, and
yeah,
the other masters don't, and it shows in the way that they interact with it. So Sin Master, you know, they put hints of him being a misogynist in there. It's like, would he think that though? But it's
mm,
the experience of understanding and having been someone and knowing, what they're going through and going through.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to see more Delgado. Like obviously not played by
Oh,
Delgado and John Colshore and Big Finish, but I'd like to see that because I feel like obviously putting him with Missy is great, and they're obviously very close together and understand each other. But of course, Delgado kind of he's at that point where of course, he's enemies with the Doctor, but you can just tell that they're best mates. Like
mm.
there's no hatred there. That they're both charmed by each other and they're both talking to each other. And I just feel like they'd have a good dynamic together. You put the one and that incarnation. I could
Mm.
see him. I could really see him working with any incarnation, really. I mean, I could see him working with Ainley a lot. I mean, Ainley could probably work with any incarnation. I think you put Ainley
Catboys
with any
United.
incarnation. I yes, put him in a story and have him infected. Put the one in a story where he's infected by the cheetah virus again,
Yes, please.
with Ainley, who's also infected with the cheetah virus, and they both have
Yeah.
to stop themselves from becoming cats. Like that would be insane, and I'd love it. I think there was like I don't know if it was you or someone else, but a headcanon that the master just occasionally just is half cat. Like it wasn't just survival, and that kind of re-puts in place like Ace knowing the Master's half cat last time. Like just after like
Yeah.
dust breeding and all that, he just decided half cat again. Why not?
He just does that sometimes, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think that just
Yeah.
explains most of the Master's timeline, really. He just does that. He just is that.
Does
He just,
does that
yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
My next question sort of goes back to your zines and your creative work, and it's a question I ask everyone that comes on the talk with. It's like, how would you kind of describe your creative process?
Ooh. Um, Creative process. Do I have one? Yes. Uh, I have um I just have many ideas swimming around all the time. They all go into a big notes document on my phone. There's millions, thousands of them sitting on there at the moment. Um, it will be completely unused,
Hmm.
but when I don't really go from one point to another. I'm just like when I thought about, the 77 years idea,
Yeah.
from the, minutes after I thought of it, I thought about what I'd make the packaging, and I did. So it's like point A to F to Z to
Hmm.
there to there. And I do so last time I took more of like a head mod approach and I managed everything this time.
Yeah.
I've got two people I'm sort of modding with, called Em and Dev. And Em and Dev are like the tech team of the zine, who and we all have like, you know, twin to twin lefty and we know what we're doing. And but yeah, it's we all do a bit. And together I combined powers. It's the perfect zine, and it's great. Yeah, but I can't even describe the creative process.
That's completely fair. I mean, it sounds a lot like mine in that it's just utter chaos, really. Organized chaos, but chaos nonetheless. And my penultimate question really is another question that I ask people that come on the show all the time, and it's about burnout, which is something that everyone suffers from, especially creatives. Um, how do you kind of deal with burnout?
I don't. Um,
God knows
Definition
how
of
many times
burnout.
I've gotten that answer on this show, and it's
Yeah,
still
I know it's probably everybody. Yeah,
mm,
I mean, you have to get really sick of something, and I have done a lot of times. So there's very rare points where I get completely sick of Doctor Who, and you have to absolutely stop whatever it is that's making you sick. And the absence of it, trying to be absent from it makes you really want to do it again.
yeah,
So, you know, I've had a lot of writing burnouts, or, you know, I had a burnout from university work most recently. And
same here actually.
the
Yeah,
way,
it's a nightmare.
because it's third year, and it's just like I have I have my jobs, my two jobs, and I've got my university work, and I was just
Christ.
going through Christmas
Yeah.
without a break because they just don't give you a break, and you're like, okay, there's no way in hell I'm carrying on like this.
Well, I look
So
forward to my
I,
third year. Got
it's
two more
a
years before, but I'm looking forward to it now.
and I did my exams and I said, right, I'm doing the bare minimum. I've
Mm.
decided that's it. I'm going to sit, learn how to crochet, and not do anything at all that I don't have to. And, now that I acknowledge that in my head, that all I have to do to, satisfy my own criteria, to do the bare minimum, I feel like doing more. Um,
Yeah.
so it's about, absence of having to do all the work all the time, to wanting to do all the work all the time, which is so
Mm.
different, and it's a really nice feeling.
Yeah, and there's a lot of logic there that I agree with, and I think works definitely. I mean, I think it depends on the creative, of course, but yeah, I think that definitely That's definitely some good advice there, I suppose. And my last question, first of all, thanks for coming on the show. It's been brilliant having you on the show and discussing all things Sasha and 13 and zines and all that. And yeah, thank you for coming on. And my last question is, do you have anything to promote coming up or any socials, anything like that?
I do, as it happens. Um, I mean, as always, my Twitter is at Wheel of Cats. Okay. I post nonsense basically, though that nonsense will be calming down a little as I apply for jobs. Look at my social media.
Fair, fair.
um,
I'll be doing the
Another
same.
thing, yeah, another thing I'd like to say is that this Around the Universe's Worst Planet in 77 Years is now available again for to buy the digital edition. So it's £3. You get a PDF copy of the zine itself, and all that money, because we donate to charity, will go towards putting against the next zine so we can make it cheaper in the face of
Yeah,
inflation. Because what we always aim to do is make the zine as affordable as it possibly can be to people who just don't have the money. So, because prices are going up, if you buy a digital copy of a 77 Year zine, we can put that money into making sure we don't have prices. But yes, I'll put that on my Twitter.
right. I'll put all those links in the description, of course. And yeah, it's been brilliant having you on the show. It's been
It's
brilliant
been
talking with you.
awesome.
Yeah. Everyone watching, make sure to subscribe, leave a like. I have a Ko-fi now that's in the description as well. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.